Hello everyone, my name is Arya Devdar and this is part 1 of NCERT Class 10 Science, Chapter 10, The Human Eye and the Colorful World. Okay, so this is a new chapter. This is the second chapter of physics section in your NCERT. Okay, so this is a purely theoretical chapter. Okay, some numericals may be formed, but only one or two. Okay, mostly it is a theoretical chapter. So I'm afraid to say it's not my favorite either because I love the numerical part, but the questions they do come in the exam from this chapter in certain weightage. So you have to study this properly. If you understand the concept behind it, you can write it in your own words. Okay. So in this part, we are only going to study one thing, which is the human eye. Okay, the human eye. We are starting basically with the first section, right? This part. Okay. So we are going to study the human eye. So let's start. Okay. The human eye. Okay. So in the last chapter, if you remember, we have studied reflection, refraction through lenses, through mirrors, right? So this is sort of an application of that chapter. Okay. So here we are going to study the application of refraction and to some extent reflection as well in nature, in our surroundings. Okay, so we are going to study rainbows and all of the atmospherical phenomenons uh, at the end of the chapter, right? But for now, we are going to focus on one of the most sensitive organs and most vital organs of our body. Okay, so we know that we can use our nose to smell, right? To smell stuff. We can use our hands to touch. Right, so there are five senses, as you know. But to see colors, right, to see our surroundings, we need eyes. Okay, it cannot be done by any other organ in our body. Okay, to see basically this beautiful world around us, right? So eyes are a vital part of our body, very sensitive, right? So we are going to study all about eye in this chapter. Okay, so the human eye, it is basically like a camera. Okay. So how? Because it has a lens. Okay. And this lens, it projects the image on a certain screen. Okay. And this screen, it gives the message to our brain, conveys the message to our brain. Okay. So let us see the functioning of the human eye. Now there are some terms which are written here, right? So we are going to understand each and every one of them, right? We are going to see the definition, right? And because questions do come in the exam that draw the structure of a human eye or explain the human eye, right? Explain the functioning of the human eye. Okay, so let us start. So firstly, how to draw this very complicated looking diagram. So this is basically the diagram which is given in your NCERT. Okay, so I'm going to explain through that itself. Okay, so how can we draw this? So it's very simple actually. So first of all, I'll just walk you through the process. So you draw a circle, right? And then you rub this part of it. Okay, the front part. And then you have to draw the small bulge there, right? Like this. So mine is very not very good, but you can understand overall, right? Then you have to outline the whole circle once more, right? And then the bulge as well. Correct? Like this. And then on the inside, if you want, you can make it a bit thick this side because that is the screen, right, where your image is projected. Here, there are the ciliary muscles which you have to show. Here, you have to show the lens, correct? And in front, you have to show the pupil and the iris. Okay. And here, at the end, you have to connect the all the layers to the optic nerve. Okay, so this is like a rough basic idea of how to draw the eye diagram, right? It's if you practice it once or twice, you'll understand. Okay, it's not very difficult. Okay, okay. So we'll start with the like how the process, how light enters the eye. Okay, so first of all, light enters from this side. Okay, right? And this outer covering which is there, this outer covering which is present, it is known as the cornea. Okay, it is the outer thin membrane, transparent membrane, which is known as the cornea. So light enters the eye through cornea. Okay, and this cornea it forms the transparent bulge present here. Correct. The cornea it forms the transparent bulge which is present. Okay, so most of the now understand this. Most of the refraction for the light rays, right? So refraction, you might think that the refraction it occurs at the lens, right? So as you can see, this is a convex lens. Okay, I'll write that down. So the eye lens, it is a convex lens. So you might think all the refraction might happen at the convex lens, but that is not true. Most of the refraction it occurs at the cornea. Okay, most of the refraction of the light rays entering the eye occurs at the outer surface of the cornea. This is very important. You have to understand. Questions are asked, MCQs are formed. Okay, most of the refraction occurs at the cornea itself. Okay, okay. So now after the cornea, the light enters the pupil. Okay, the pupil, it is a small opening present, right? And it regulates and controls the amount of light entering the eye. Okay, it regulates, so it can get smaller, it can get bigger. Okay, so it regulates the amount of light entering the eye, right? And the iris, it is a dark muscular diaphragm. Okay, so basically it is kind of like a muscle. Okay, and it controls the size of the pupil. Okay, so the pupil has to be big, then the iris widens it, right? If it has to be small, the iris contracts it. Correct? So that is the function of the iris. It is a dark muscular diaphragm. And the pupil, it is a small opening present at the entrance or just before the eyelids. Okay. And it regulates the amount of light entering the eye. Okay. So obviously we don't want all the light to enter our eye, right? So hence the pupil is present. Okay. And one more thing you have to understand is that you know that there are different colors, right, of eyes. So there are blue eyes, green eyes, hazel eyes, black eyes, brown eyes, right? So this color, what we see, it is basically the iris. Okay, the iris gives the color to our eyes, whatever color you have. Okay, so you have to understand this. It is the iris which gives color to our eyes. Okay, moving on. Now the light it enters to the eye lens. Now, what is the function of the eye lens? Okay, it is a crystalline eye lens, right? Here you can see crystalline eye lens. This eye lens it merely provides the finer adjustment of focal length. Okay, so for example, light is entering, right? I'll show you. Wait, yeah. For example, the light is entering like this, and if you want to, form the image at this point, somewhere here. Okay, so for example, the lens is not, the focal length of the light or the lens is not perfect. So then what will we do? Right, so that is why the crystalline lens is present. So it adjusts the focal length required to focus the objects at different distances, right, on the retina. Okay, so the objects which are present at different distances, they can be focused on the retina. Okay, so it's not like that, like the objects which are closer to our eyes, we can see them clearly, and which are far away, we cannot see them or they are blurred. Okay, so it has to give equal weightage to everything. So hence it has to change its size, change its shape. Okay, to increase or decrease the focal length. So now how will it change its shape? So that is why the ciliary muscles are present. The ciliary muscles, they change the irises. I'm sorry, they change the eye lens's shape. Okay, so they help change the focal length of the eye lens. Simple. Ciliary muscles. Okay. Now moving on to the retina. The retina, it is a delicate membrane. Okay, it is a very delicate membrane and it has many light sensitive cells. So it has rod cells and cone cells. You might know this, right? So rod cells and cone cells. Okay, retina. Now these light sensitive cells, whenever the light falls on them, they get activated. Okay, and when they get activated, they generate electrical signals. Okay, now after generating electrical signals, all these signals they travel through to the brain through the optic nerve. Okay, so these signals are sent to the brain via the optic nerves. Now the brain interprets these signals and finally processes the information so that we can perceive objects as they are, so that we see objects as they are. Now there is one more important thing that you have to understand. The eye lens, it forms an inverted image on the retina. So whatever we are seeing right now, okay, so the actual image forming on our retina, it is inverted, exact ulta. But our brain, it flips it again, right? It helps us understand because we cannot understand anything ulta, right? So hence it flips the image, inverted image, it makes it upside right side down, right? And then we can interpret it, correct? So that is how it works. The eye lens does not form erect images, it forms inverted images. Okay, inverted real images of the object on the retina. Correct. So that is the main function of the eye lens, crystalline lens. Okay. So we have seen cornea, then we have seen iris, pupil, right? Lens, then ciliary muscles, then the retina and the optic nerve. Correct. Two more things are remaining, right? Which are aqueous humor and vitreous humor. Now, basically, these are liquids, okay? And these liquids, they are filled in between the gaps, all the gaps which are present in our eye, because it cannot remain empty, right? It will dry up. So, to moisten it, the uh, liquids are present, correct? So, between the cornea and the lens, eye lens, or you can say between the cornea and the iris, aqueous humor is present. Aqueous humor. And between the eye lens and the retina, vitreous humor is present. Vitreous humor. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold right now, but yeah, anyways. Okay, so firstly aqueous humor, then vitreous humor. Always remember alphabetical order. First A, then B, right? So similarly, aqueous humor first and then vitreous humor next. Okay, so that completes our human eye. So one quick recap of it. See, the light enters our eye through the cornea. Most of the light it gets refracted at the cornea. A few slight adjustments of focal length are done at the eye lens. Okay. After entering the cornea, it goes to the through the pupil. The pupil is a small opening present which regulates, controls the amount of light entering the eye. The iris is the dark muscular diaphragm, right? It is a dark muscular diaphragm that controls the size of the pupil. Correct? The crystalline lens, it is a eye lens, it is a convex lens, right? And it basically provides the finer adjustment of focal length required to focus objects at different distances. Correct? So if it has a short distance, then it adjusts its focal length. If it is at a longer distance, it again adjusts its focal length accordingly. Okay. Now it cannot do this on its own. So that is why the ciliary muscles are present. They adjust the size of the eye lens, the size and shape of the eye lens. Now the light finally, the eye lens, it forms an inverted real image on the retina. The retina, it is a thin membrane present which has thousands and thousands of light sensitive cells, rods and cones, right? Rod and cone cells. Now, these light sensitive cells, when they get light, they get activated and they send electrical signals. These electrical signals are transmitted to the brain via the optic nerve, right? The brain interprets the signals, it converts the inverted image to erect, and It helps us interpret whatever we are seeing. This is how it works. In between the cornea and the iris, or the cornea and the islands, aqueous humor is present. In between the islands and retina, vitreous humor is present. ठीक है? Both are liquids which are there to moisten the eye and make sure that it does not dry up. So that is a quick summary of the human eye. Okay. Now one more part we have to see. Okay. So it is given as a did you know section or do you know section in your NCERT. So basically, the thing is, if you have ever seen when you enter, right, okay, when you switch off the lights at night, right, when you sleep, when you switch off the lights instantly, you cannot see anything. It goes completely pitch dark. Okay. Slowly, slowly, you start to see stuff around. Okay. It does not happen instantly. Okay. Similarly or oppositely, when you enter a lit room, okay, when you wake up and when you go outside and you turn on the light, right? We again cannot see anything because there is too much light, right? Too much light entering our eyes. So again, we cannot see anything and then things start to clear up. Okay. So when too much light enters our eyes, our eyelids shut, right? They shut down and they do not open until your eyes get adjusted to the surrounding light present. So why does this happen basically? See, when you are in a lit room, your pupil size is small. Okay, because it does not want to allow too much light to enter. Okay, now when you enter from a lit room to a dark room, okay, so the pupil size is still small, right? And to see in the dark room, you need a larger pupil size. So hence, when you immediately enter a dark room, you cannot instantly see everything. The iris, it adjusts the size of the pupil, it enlarges the pupil a bit, and then you can slowly start to see the things around you. Similarly, when you are in a dark room, as I said, your pupil size is very big or bigger compared to in a lit room. Okay, so now when you enter a lit room from a dark room, the pupil size is still big. So too much light enters your eye, right? And then the iris, it slowly uh, mm, diminishes the size of your pupil and you are able to see in a lit room slowly, slowly. Okay, so basically the pupil of the eye, it acts like a variable aperture, right? If aperture is diameter, so it has a variable diameter whose size it can be varied by the iris, right? So when the light it is very bright, the iris contracts the pupil to allow less light to enter, and when it is dim light or very dark, the iris expands the pupil to allow more light to enter the eye. So the pupil opens completely through the relaxation of the iris. Iris, when it relaxes, the pupil opens completely. Okay, so that is the basic working of the human eye and the do you know part of your NCERT. So that's it for now. Thank you so much.